Good evening, and welcome to Sleepy Night Channel. Tonight, we drift into sleep with the slow rhythm of deep breathing and the quiet restoration of the body. For now, there is nothing you need to do. Just get comfortable and listen. Soft bell chimes and gentle ambience stay with us throughout, quiet and steady. If you'd like more calm bedtime episodes, you can like the video or leave a short comment below. It helps this channel reach others who need something quiet at night. Now, let's begin. The day slowly comes to an end as the light fades from the sky and the world begins to grow quiet. We feel a natural change in our energy as the sun goes down and the shadows get longer across the floor of the room. One reason for this is a special timer inside our bodies that knows exactly when it is time to stop and rest for a while. It is a simple and reliable system that has been part of our lives since the very beginning of our history on this planet. This internal clock is controlled by the light that enters our eyes and tells our brain if it is day or night. When the room gets dark, the brain sends a quiet signal to every part of the body to start slowing down and preparing for bed. Scientists noticed this when they observed how our temperature and our heart rate drop in a steady rhythm every single evening. It is another way of seeing the same idea of a recovery period that works in layers to clean and sort our thoughts. Sleep is a natural state of rest, where the body and mind become less active and the awareness of the world around us fades away. It is not just a time of being still, but a very busy period where the brain carries out important work to keep us healthy. One clue is that every living creature has its own version of this cycle, from the smallest insects to the largest animals in the ocean. If we return to that simple picture, we see that rest is as important as the air we breathe and the food we eat every day. As the light disappears, a small part of the brain begins to release a signal that tells the rest of the body it is time to sleep. This signal is a natural chemical that builds up in the dark and helps us feel a sense of calm and readiness for the night. Scientists think that this process is triggered by the lack of blue light, which is why the warm glow of a sunset feels so relaxing. In practice, this chemical acts as a quiet messenger that prepares every cell in our body for the long hours of restoration ahead. Take a slow breath and let your jaw unclench as the world outside continues to grow dark and still. There is nothing you need to solve right now, so just let your thoughts drift with the reliable rhythm of the evening air. Another quiet detail is how the temperature of our skin begins to change, helping the heat leave our core so that we can cool down. This cooling process is a necessary step that allows the brain to enter the deeper stages of rest, where the real healing happens. Throughout the day, a different chemical builds up in our brain the longer we stay awake and active. This is often called sleep pressure, and it acts like a heavy weight that slowly pulls us toward the comfort of the mattress. Scientists noticed this when they studied how our desire to rest grows stronger with every hour that passes after we wake up in the morning. And with that in mind, we can feel the natural urge to close our eyes and let the weight of the day simply dissolve into the shadows. The master clock that controls this whole process is a tiny group of cells located deep inside the center of the brain. It acts like a conductor in an orchestra, making sure that every organ and every muscle follows the same quiet beat of the night. One clue is that this clock is so precise, it can stay on track even without any outside signals for a short period of time. It is a reliable system that provides a sense of order to our lives, helping us stay in harmony with the rotation of the Earth itself. As we lie here, our heart rate begins to slow down, and our breathing becomes more regular and rhythmic. This change is a sign that the body is moving away from the active state of the day and toward the restorative state of the night. Scientists noticed this when they measured how the pulse becomes calm and steady as we settle into a comfortable position. For a moment, let that idea rest as we listen to the quiet sounds of the room and feel the softness of the pillows. Our muscles begin to lose their tension, starting from the tips of our toes and moving slowly up through our legs and arms. The heavy feeling of the blankets is a comforting presence that helps us stay still while the body prepares for its night shift. One reason is that the brain sends a signal to the muscles to relax so that we do not move around too much while we are dreaming. It is another way of seeing the same idea of a safe and secure environment where we can let go of everything and just be. The onset of rest is a beautiful and complex dance between the light of the sun and the biology of our own bodies. It is a journey that happens every single night, taking us from the noise of the world to the silence of the dream state. Now imagine how the brain is already starting to change its patterns, moving from the fast waves of the day to the slower waves of the evening. We are ready now to drift a little deeper into the first stages of sleep, where the awareness of the room begins to fade. Special receptors in the back of our eyes are specifically tuned to the blue light that comes from the sky during the day. When these receptors stop seeing that light, they stop sending the wake up signal to the brain, allowing the night cycle to begin. One clue is that even very small amounts of light can sometimes interfere with this process, which is why a dark room is so helpful for rest. A key detail is that our bodies are designed to respond to the natural shift from the bright sun to the soft glow of the moon. Scientists think that this reliance on light and dark is an ancient survival tool that has been passed down through many generations. By resting during the dark hours, our ancestors were able to stay safe and recover the energy they needed for the challenges of the next day. One clue is that this rhythm is so deeply rooted in our biology that it affects almost every function of our body, from our digestion to our mood. If we return to that simple picture, we see a system that has been perfected over thousands of years to give us exactly what we need. Let the day fade a little more as we focus on the feeling of the air moving in and out of our lungs. There is nothing you need to solve right now, so just let your thoughts drift with the steady movement of the night. Another quiet detail is how the brain begins to disconnect from the inputs of the senses, creating a quiet space where we can begin to dream. We feel the safety of this transition, a reliable path that leads us away from the waking world and into the deep peace of the night. As our core temperature drops, the blood vessels in our hands and feet open up to let the heat escape into the room. This is why our hands and feet often feel warm just before we fall into a deep sleep, as the body works to find its perfect balance. Scientists noticed this when they studied how the body prepares for the different stages of rest that occur throughout the night. It is a masterpiece of balance, designed to keep us comfortable and safe while our minds are far away in the world of dreams. With every breath, we are moving closer to the first true stage of sleep, where the logic of the day no longer applies. The journey into the night has begun, and the world outside is now just a distant memory that has no power over our rest. As we drift a little deeper, we can feel the stability of the natural laws that guide us through the darkness to a new morning. We are ready to leave the onset of rest behind and enter the first descent into the quiet and restorative stages of the night. As we drift a little deeper into the evening, we enter the first stage of sleep, which is the lightest and most delicate phase of the night. During this time, the mind begins to let go of the outside world, and our thoughts become more fluid and less connected to the logic of the day. One clue is that people can often be easily woken up from this stage, as the body is still partially aware of the quiet sounds in the room. For a moment, let that idea rest as we feel the slow and steady transition from the active state of being awake to the quiet world of rest. In practice, the brain begins to produce slower patterns of energy known as theta waves, which help to quiet the noise of our daily worries. These waves move through the mind like a calm and steady current, preparing it for the deeper stages of restoration that will follow later in the night. One reason for this shift is to allow the brain to start its nightly cleaning process, sorting through the events and the feelings of the day without any urgency. We can tell because the stability of this movement is a reliable cycle that has been part of our nature for as long as we have existed on this planet. Another quiet detail is the feeling of floating or drifting that often happens during this first part of the night as the body relaxes. Some people notice a sudden sensation of falling or a quick movement of the muscles, which is a common and natural experience as the brain transitions its control. Scientists noticed this when they studied how the body lets go of its physical tension to prepare for the long hours of stillness and recovery ahead. There is nothing you need to solve right now, so just let your thoughts drift with the calm and rhythmic pulse of your own heart. As we move through this phase, the eyes move slowly behind the lids, following a calm and regular rhythm that mirrors our deep breathing. The sounds of the room, like the ticking of a clock or the distant hum of the world outside, begin to fade into the background of our awareness. One clue is that the brain starts to ignore the inputs from the senses, creating a private space where the first glimpses of dreams can begin to appear in the dark. It is a masterpiece of balance, designed to lead us safely away from the daylight and into the deep and restorative peace of the night. One reason for this light stage of sleep is that it once provided a way for our ancestors to stay alert to the environment while still resting their bodies. It allowed for a brief period of recovery while keeping the senses active enough to respond to any sudden changes in the world around them. One clue is that even today, we often feel like we have not been asleep at all if we are woken up during this first and lightest stage. It is another way of seeing the same idea of a safe and gradual entry into the night, allowing the body to settle into its new rhythm with patience. Take a slow breath and let your jaw unclench as the weight of the blankets provides a comforting and steady sense of security. The muscles in the neck and the shoulders are now completely relaxed, allowing the head to rest deeply on the softness of the pillows. One reason for this is the natural release of tension that happens as the brain signals the body to prepare for the long period of stillness. We feel the reliability of this process, a constant and quiet system that has supported our health and our well-being for many generations. And with that in mind, we realize that the body is now ready to leave the surface of the night behind and sink into a deeper state of rest. The pulse is steady, the breath is rhythmic, and the mind is clear of the tasks and the pressures of the waking world. We can tell because the body temperature continues to drop, signaling to every cell that the time for healing and recovery has truly arrived in the dark. We are ready now to continue the journey, drifting deeper into the quiet and reliable stages of the night where the real and busy work of sleep begins. As we drift a little deeper, the quiet space of the night changes into a much heavier and more solid state of rest. The brain stops producing the fast, busy waves of the day and begins to create slow, rolling pulses of energy. One clue is that these long waves mark the beginning of deep sleep, a time when the body takes full control of the healing process. A key detail is how the physical systems of the body slow down to their absolute lowest point of the entire day. Your heart rate becomes very slow and steady, pumping blood with a quiet power that requires almost no effort. The breathing follows this same calm rhythm, drawing air deep into the lungs in a slow and predictable pattern. In practice, this deep stage of rest is when the brain decides to step back and let the physical body do its work. The blood flow shifts slightly, moving away from the busy centers of the mind and out toward the large muscles of the arms and legs. We can tell because the muscles become very relaxed and warm, ready to absorb the nutrients they need to recover from the tasks of the waking hours. And this connects back to the idea of a nightly repair shop, where every tiny fiber is checked and fixed in the dark. Inside the muscles, special building blocks called proteins are put together to heal the small amounts of damage that happen when we walk and lift things. It is a quiet, mechanical process that happens on a microscopic level, working perfectly without any direction from our conscious mind. Another quiet detail is the release of specific chemicals that help the body grow and maintain its strength over the years. During this deep, slow-wave rest, the brain signals a small gland to send growth hormones out into the bloodstream. One reason for this is to keep the bones strong and the tissues healthy, proving that rest is an active state of building rather than just a pause in the day. The immune system also uses this period of deep stillness to prepare its defenses for the morning. The body creates and stores the special cells that fight off illness, stocking up on everything it needs to keep us safe in the world outside. A key detail is that this complex security system functions best when we are completely disconnected from the room and resting deeply in our beds. Because the body is so focused on this heavy repair work, it becomes very difficult to wake someone up from this specific stage. The outside noises that might have stirred us earlier in the night are now completely ignored by the sleeping brain. If we return to that simple picture, we see a protective wall built around our rest, ensuring that the critical healing is not interrupted by the minor events of the world. We can tell because people who are woken during this deep phase often feel very heavy and confused for several minutes. The mind takes a while to catch up with the sudden return to the bright lights and the fast pace of the waking state. It is a sign of just how far away we travel during this deep restoration, sinking into a level of biology that is ancient and powerful. For a moment, let that idea rest as we consider how this explains the physical relief we feel after a very long and quiet night. The soreness in our legs or the stiffness in our shoulders is often washed away by the steady blood flow and the chemical repairs of the dark. In practice, this is the true foundation of our health, a reliable cycle of recovery that rebuilds our physical form every single night. This deeply restorative stage mostly happens in the first half of the night, taking priority over all other types of rest. The body knows exactly what it needs to fix first, organizing its time in the dark with a perfect and unquestionable logic. We are ready now to follow the cycle as it shifts again, moving from the heavy repair of the muscles toward the active and visual world of the dreaming mind. After the heavy repair work of deep sleep is finished, the body begins a new and very different phase of the night. The brain steps out of its slow and steady rhythm and starts to produce fast, active waves of energy once again. One clue is that if you looked at these energy patterns on a screen, they would look almost exactly like a brain that is wide awake. This active phase is when we experience our most vivid and complex dreams. Underneath the closed eyelids, the eyes begin to dart back and forth in quick, sharp movements. A key detail is that this stage is named after these exact movements, marking a time when the mind is busy watching images that only it can see in the dark. Now imagine the mind acting like a quiet librarian, sorting through the thousands of memories and events from the day before. It looks at every conversation and every new fact, deciding which ones are worth keeping and which ones can be thrown away. In practice, this sorting process is what allows us to learn new skills and remember the important moments of our lives for years to come. Another quiet detail is how the body protects itself while the brain is busy running through these vivid stories. A special signal is sent down the spine to temporarily turn off the connection to the major muscles in our arms and legs. We can tell because this creates a state of total stillness, ensuring that we do not try to walk or move around while we are dreaming in our beds. It is a brilliant biological safety switch that keeps us completely secure in the dark. The heart and the lungs continue to work perfectly, but the rest of the physical form remains locked in a state of profound rest. One reason for this is to allow the brain to safely simulate any situation, no matter how active, without the physical body ever leaving the mattress. Take a slow breath and let the day fade a little more as we consider the emotional work that happens during this time. Scientists noticed this when they discovered that this specific stage of sleep helps us process difficult feelings and lower our stress levels. It acts as a kind of overnight therapy, smoothing out the sharp edges of our daily worries so that we can wake up feeling more balanced. And with that in mind, we see how this stage provides a bridge between our past experiences and our future decisions. The brain takes the raw emotions of the day and carefully files them away in a place where they are easier to manage and understand. This is a real-world connection that explains why a hard problem often feels much smaller and easier to handle after a long night of rest. During these active dreams, the visual parts of the brain are turned on, creating landscapes and faces that look entirely real to us. At the same time, the logical part of the mind is dialed down to a very low level of activity. One clue is that this explains why our dreams can be so strange and unusual, yet we accept them as perfectly normal while they are happening. If we return to that simple picture, we see a mind that is free to explore new ideas without the strict rules of the waking world. This freedom allows the brain to make creative connections between pieces of information that might seem completely unrelated during the day. In practice, many great inventions and artistic ideas have been born from this exact state of free and wandering thought in the middle of the night. This stage of dreaming does not happen just once, but repeats in a cycle that loops several times before the morning arrives. The first period of these active dreams might only last for 10 minutes, but each cycle gets a little longer as the night goes on. Scientists noticed this when they mapped the structure of sleep, revealing a precise schedule that the body follows with remarkable accuracy. Towards the end of the night, we spend much more time in this dreaming phase than we do in the deep, heavy stages of physical repair. The body has already fixed its muscles and built its energy, so it dedicates the remaining dark hours to the health of the mind. A key detail is that this long period of emotional and mental tuning is what prepares us to face a new day with a clear and focused perspective. There is nothing you need to solve right now, so just let your body enjoy the steady rhythm of this quiet mechanical process. We feel the safety of this order, knowing that our mind has its own reliable system for cleaning up the noise of our busy lives. We are ready now to look even closer at the physical changes in the brain, exploring the night shift that washes away the physical waste of the day. As we drift a little deeper into the mechanics of the night, we can explore exactly how we know what the mind is doing in the dark. In practice, scientists have learned to listen to the brain by measuring the tiny electrical signals that ripple across its surface while we rest. One clue is that these signals change their shape and their speed depending on how deeply we are sleeping at any given moment. During the deepest stages of rest, these signals slow down into long rolling patterns known as delta waves. These waves move with a steady and powerful rhythm, sweeping across the mind like a calm tide moving over a quiet and empty beach. We can tell because the appearance of these slow waves always matches the time when our bodies are completely relaxed and still. A key detail is what happens inside the physical structure of the brain while these slow waves are rolling through. For many years, it was a mystery how the brain managed to clear away the waste that builds up from a long day of thinking and problem solving. It is another way of seeing the same idea of a daily cycle, where hard work must eventually be followed by a period of cleaning and repair. Let the day fade a little more as we consider the elegant solution that the body has developed for this exact problem. Deep in the night, a special system of fluid begins to pump through the brain, washing over the cells in a slow and rhythmic motion. One clue is that this clear liquid acts like a gentle stream, carrying away the leftover materials that the mind no longer needs. We can tell because researchers noticed that the space between the brain cells actually grows wider when we are in a state of deep sleep. This physical change creates enough room for the cleaning fluid to flow freely through the pathways of the mind without any obstruction. In practice, this means the brain literally opens up during the night to allow the cleansing process to reach every single corner. Another quiet detail is how this flow of liquid is perfectly timed with the slow delta waves and the steady beat of the heart. Every time the heart pumps blood into the brain, a wave of clear fluid follows right behind it to wash the empty spaces. This is a real-world connection that explains why a good night of rest leaves us feeling so sharp and clear-headed in the morning. Take a slow breath and realize that there is nothing you need to solve right now while your body handles this complex work. You are simply the passenger on this quiet journey, supported by a biological system that knows exactly how to maintain its own health. And with that in mind, we can feel a deep sense of peace, knowing that these automatic processes protect us while we are lost in our dreams. If we return to that simple picture, we can imagine the brain as a busy city that finally quiets down after the sun has set. The heavy traffic of our daytime thoughts is gone, and the streets are cleared so that the necessary maintenance can take place in the dark. A key detail is that this deep cleaning can only happen when we are asleep, which is why taking the time to rest is so vital for our future. This remarkable system works quietly in the background, repeating its gentle washing cycle every time we enter the deepest part of the night. It is a masterpiece of biology, moving the waste out of the brain and back into the body where it can be safely removed. One reason we feel so refreshed at dawn is because this physical weight has literally been lifted from our minds while we were resting. For a moment, let that idea rest as the slow waves of the night continue their steady and comforting pulse. The mind is clean, the body is repaired, and the whole system is preparing to move back up into the lighter stages of sleep as the cycle turns once again. We are safe and secure, held in the perfect balance of this ancient and reliable rhythm. As the hours pass in the dark, the body does not simply stay in one flat state of rest until the morning. Instead, the brain travels through a precise and repeating loop of stages that lasts for about an hour and a half. A key detail is how this loop acts like a quiet journey down a flight of stairs and then back up again. The mind descends from light rest into the heavy physical repair, and then climbs back to the active dreaming phase. In practice, the structure of these loops changes slowly as the night moves toward the dawn. During the first few cycles, the body prioritizes the deepest stages of physical recovery, spending very little time in the dreaming phase. We can tell because the brain focuses on fixing the muscles and tissues first, ensuring the physical machine is secure. Once that heavy work is done, the second half of the night is mostly dedicated to the long and complex dreams of the mind. Take a slow breath and let the day fade a little more as you consider the perfection of this schedule. There is nothing you need to solve right now because your biology manages this shifting timeline without any effort from you. Another quiet detail is how we briefly wake up at the end of every single cycle, even if we never remember it in the morning. These moments are so short that the conscious mind does not have time to turn on and record the memory. Scientists noticed this when they observed people adjusting their blankets or changing their sleeping position every 90 minutes. It is a biological safety check, a quick scan of the environment to make sure the room is still quiet and safe. One clue is that our ancestors relied on these brief moments of awareness to ensure their surroundings were secure in the dark. Once the brain confirms that everything is fine, the heavy sleep pressure pulls the mind right back down into the next cycle. A key detail is how the body's internal temperature aligns perfectly with these rising and falling cycles throughout the night. The core is at its coldest during the deep physical repair, and it warms up slightly every time we enter the dreaming phase. Scientists noticed this when they mapped the heat of the body against the electrical waves of the brain. It is a highly efficient mechanical process, shifting the warmth exactly where it is needed to support the specific work of each stage. And this connects back to the idea of a highly organized system that watches over you while you rest. It is a constant rhythm of diving deep into the dark and floating back up to the surface, repeating until the sun rises. If we return to that simple picture, we see that the night is not a single block of time, but a moving, dynamic process. We feel the reliability of this order, knowing that the body knows exactly how to build the perfect night of rest. To understand how we stay in this peaceful state, we can look at the quiet chemical messengers that travel through the blood. These messengers act like tiny switches, turning off the active parts of the brain and keeping the body perfectly still in the dark. One clue is a specific compound that builds up every minute we are awake, creating a gentle pressure to rest. This compound is a natural byproduct of using energy, left behind every time we move a muscle or solve a problem during the day. A key detail is that this pressure is not a heavy burden, but a natural and comforting weight that guides us back to the mattress. As the hours pass, the levels of this chemical rise higher and higher, gently slowing down the fast pathways of the waking mind. In practice, the brain has special receivers that catch these chemical signals and translate them into a feeling of deep relaxation. When enough of these receivers are filled, the conscious part of the mind simply decides it is time to let go and power down. Another quiet detail is how this weight works together with the signal of darkness, creating a perfect balance that locks us into a deep slumber. When the eyes stop seeing light, a small gland deep inside the brain begins to release a quiet chemical that tells the whole system the sun has gone down. Scientists noticed this when they observed that our internal temperature and our breathing change exactly when this darkness chemical peaks in the blood. It does not force us to sleep, but rather opens the door to the night, giving the rest of the body permission to begin its recovery. And this connects back to the very beginning of the night, when the fading light first started the chain of events. Every stage is linked by these invisible messengers, creating a continuous bridge that carries us safely until the morning. Take a slow breath and let your jaw unclench as you feel the reliable comfort of this natural design. There is nothing you need to solve right now, because your biology has already measured the light and adjusted the balance for you. We can tell because the body uses heat to help these chemicals do their work more effectively in the dark. By sending warmth to the hands and feet, the core of the body cools down, which is a necessary step to keep the sleep signals strong and steady. For a moment, let that idea rest as we consider what happens to this heavy pressure while we are sleeping. As the brain washes itself with clear fluid, the buildup of the day is slowly cleared away, leaving the mind fresh and light. In practice, the urge to sleep gradually disappears over the course of the night, perfectly timed with the rising of the sun. If we return to that simple picture, we see a cycle of filling and emptying, a quiet mechanical process that manages our energy without any effort. A key detail is that this chemical web is incredibly robust, built to withstand small changes in the room without waking us up. If a sudden noise occurs, the heavy sleep pressure acts like a buffer, absorbing the sound and keeping the mind focused on its rest. These quiet messengers are constantly adjusting their levels, making sure that we stay in the correct stage of the cycle. When it is time for the heavy repair of the muscles, the chemicals deepen our rest and block out the physical world. And when it is time to dream, a different set of signals takes over, allowing the mind to become active while the body stays locked in place. We feel the safety of this order, knowing that the brain is managing a complex schedule while we are simply lying in the dark. The chemistry of slumber is a masterpiece of balance, adjusting its levels every second to keep us in the right stage of rest. We are safe and secure, held in place by the careful work of our own cells as they measure the passing of the dark hours. Looking beyond our own beds, we can see that this quiet rhythm of rest is shared by almost every living creature on the earth. From the deepest oceans to the highest branches of the forests, the need to power down and recover is a universal rule of biology. A key detail is that nature has held on to this vulnerable state of sleep through millions of years of evolution, despite the risks of staying still in the dark. One reason for this is that the physical and mental repairs that happen during rest are simply too important to skip. In practice, different animals have found remarkable ways to fit this necessary recovery into their specific environments. Some birds can actually sleep while they are flying long distances across the oceans, shutting down just one half of their brain at a time. We can tell because dolphins and whales use this exact same technique to make sure they can always swim to the surface for air. It is a brilliant mechanical solution that allows them to get the deep rest they need without ever stopping their continuous journey through the water. Take a slow breath and let your shoulders drop as you think about this vast and quiet network of resting creatures. There is nothing you need to solve right now, so just let your mind appreciate the scale of this shared biological cycle. Scientists noticed this universal need when they studied very small insects, finding that even fruit flies have a specific time when they become completely still and unresponsive. If they are kept awake, they will sleep longer the next day to catch up, proving that the pressure to rest builds up in them just as it does in us. Another quiet detail is how the length of sleep changes depending on where an animal sits in the food chain. Large predators like lions can sleep for most of the day in the open, while smaller grazing animals might only rest for a few minutes at a time while standing up. One clue is that despite these differences in timing, the chemical messengers that control the sleep cycles are very similar across all these different species. And this connects back to the idea that the ancient mechanisms of sleep were perfected long ago and shared with every new branch of life that grew on the planet. If we return to that simple picture, we see that our own need for 8 hours of rest is not a weakness, but a fundamental part of how life sustains itself. We are participating in a daily ritual that connects us directly to the birds in the sky and the fish in the deep blue sea. Let the day fade a little more as we consider the peace of a whole world winding down together. As the sun sweeps across the globe, it brings a rolling wave of silence and stillness to the forests, the open plains, and the busy cities. A key detail is that this global rhythm is always happening, moving across the time zones in a perfect and steady circle. While we are waking up, someone else on the other side of the planet is just closing their eyes, keeping the cycle unbroken in the dark. We feel the reliability of this order, a constant and quiet system that provides balance to the entire natural world. We are ready now to bring our focus back from the wide world outside, moving closer to our own breath and the final stages of our rest. Turning our attention inward, we can feel the quiet weight of the night settling over the room and over our own resting bodies. The vast network of the natural world is slowly winding down, and we are safely tucked away in our own quiet corner of the dark. We can tell because the sounds of the day have completely faded, replaced by the steady and comforting silence of the late hours. In practice, this is the time when the conscious mind finally hands over all its control to the automatic systems of the body. The heart beats with a slow and rhythmic certainty, knowing exactly how much effort is needed to sustain this deep level of rest. It is a masterpiece of biology, a quiet engine that runs without any instruction or worry from our waking thoughts. Take a slow breath and let the day fade a little more as you feel the heavy support of the mattress beneath you. There is nothing you need to solve right now, because your biology has already taken over the complex work of keeping you safe and secure. You are simply floating on the steady current of your own breathing, moving deeper into the restorative stages of the night. A key detail is how the muscles in your back and your shoulders sink further into the bed, releasing any physical tension they carried from the morning. The body recognizes this horizontal position as a signal to completely power down, stopping all the active preparations for movement. One reason for this is to conserve energy, allowing the deep repair of the cells to take priority over everything else. We feel the reliability of this order, knowing that gravity is holding us gently but firmly in a place of total safety. The blankets provide a functional shield, trapping the warmth close to the skin while the core of the body cools down to its perfect sleeping temperature. If we return to that simple picture, we see a physical space that has been built for the sole purpose of your recovery. In practice, the slowing down of the body changes our perception of time, making the night feel like a vast and quiet ocean. Minutes and hours blend together into a single, continuous experience of rest that stretches out toward the morning light. We can tell, because when we finally wake up, the long hours of the dark often seem to have passed in the blink of an eye. Another quiet detail is how the breath becomes the only anchor left connecting you to the physical room. It moves in and out of the lungs with a gentle rise and fall, mimicking the slow and rolling delta waves that are now sweeping through the brain. Scientists noticed this when they observed how a calm breathing pattern directly signals the mind to maintain its deepest level of rest. A key detail is how the temperature of the room works in harmony with the natural cooling of your own physical form. The contrast between the cool air on your face and the heavy warmth of the blankets creates a perfect environment for the nervous system to relax. It is another way of seeing the same idea of balance, where the outside world and the inside of the body meet in total peace. As the hours stretch out ahead, the chemical messengers in the blood continue to manage the stages of sleep with perfect timing. They guide you seamlessly from the heavy repairs of the muscles into the active landscapes of your dreams, and then back again. And this connects back to the idea of a nightly journey, a path that your body knows by heart and follows without any hesitation, is less than her own. 9# is greater than. Let your jaw unclench and allow the heavy darkness of the room to act as a soft wrap around your senses. There are no decisions to be made, no tasks to complete, and no far-off destinations to reach before the sun comes up. You are exactly where you need to be, participating in the same quiet ritual of restoration that has sustained humanity for countless generations. One clue is that even if you briefly become aware of the room, the heavy sleep pressure acts like a buffer to pull you gently back under. It is a comforting weight, a reminder that the night is long and that there is plenty of time left to finish the necessary healing. We rest in the knowledge that this system is solid, built to protect our peace through all the quiet hours of the dark. Every cell in the body is now operating on its lowest and most efficient setting, using almost no energy to sustain itself. This allows all the available resources to be directed toward the brain, washing away the waste and securing the memories of the day. Scientists noticed this when they found that the most vital maintenance of the human body can only happen when we are in this state of total surrender. The transition into the final gateway of sleep is a complete release into the ancient laws of biology and nature. The mind is clean, the body is repaired, and the whole system is refreshed by the long periods of stillness and silence. We are safe and secure, held in the perfect balance of an automatic cycle that never asks for anything in return. The air in the room is cool and fresh, moving through the space with the same steady rhythm as the earth turning in the void. Your breathing is slow and natural, following the steady heartbeat of the planet as it travels through the quiet night. The journey is complete, and the natural mechanics of the dark are the only things left to watch over your rest. If you are still awake, you can subscribe to Sleepy Night channel for more calm night journeys like this. That was 100 calm facts about sleep. Now the sound will continue for a while, so you can fall asleep. Good night.